My drunk best friend claims she hooked up with my boyfriend. He denies it. I know which bond to keep. The answer surprised both of them. My best friend Alana called me at 1:47 a.m. on a Saturday. She was crying. She was drunk. She said, I have to tell you something. I can't keep it in anymore. I said, are you okay? She said, I hooked up with Jordan. Jordan is my boyfriend. 2 years. She said, last month, at Thomas's party. You left early because you had work. Jordan stayed. I stayed. We were drunk. It happened in the upstairs bathroom. I am so sorry. I am the worst person alive. She said, worst person alive, with the theatrical conviction of a drunk woman who has been rehearsing a confession in her head for 4 weeks and has chosen 1:47 a.m. as the moment to perform it because alcohol is the only anesthesia she could find for the surgery of telling the truth. I said, I need to hang up. I'll call you tomorrow. I called Jordan. He answered on the second ring, awake, which at 1:52 a.m. is its own kind of information. I said, Alana just told me you hooked up at Thomas's party. His response was immediate. That did not happen. She's drunk. She's been weird for weeks. I don't know why she's saying this, but it's not true. He said it cleanly. No pause, no stutter. The sentence was ready. Not rehearsed, ready. The way a sentence is ready when it's the truth or when it's been sitting in the chamber for 4 weeks waiting for the trigger. I said, I need the night. Don't call me until I call you. I didn't sleep. I sat on my couch and I did what I do when the world gives me 2 versions of a story and asks me to choose one. I looked at the evidence. Thomas's party. I left at 11 p.m. because I had an early shift. Jordan stayed because his friend Devin was DJing, and Jordan said he wanted to support Devin, which is the phrase men use when they want to stay at a party without saying, I want to stay at a party. Alana stayed because Alana stays at every party until the party asks her to leave. The first thing I did was call Thomas. At 7 a.m., he answered like a man who had been asleep for 4 hours. I said, at your party, did Jordan and Alana interact? He said, everyone interacted. It was a party. I said, did you see them together? Alone? He said, I saw them talking around midnight. Nothing weird. Then I was in the basement with Devin. I didn't track anyone after that. I called Alana at noon. She was sober. The 1:47 a.m. confession energy had been replaced by the noon the next day energy of a person who is now sober enough to be terrified of what they said. I said, tell me what happened. Sober. She said, after you left, Jordan and I were talking. We were both drinking. He was funny. He was being charming. We went upstairs because I said I needed to lie down, and he said he'd make sure I was okay. I said, and then? She said, and then it happened. In the bathroom. Not the bedroom. The bathroom. It was fast and stupid, and I have hated myself every day since. I said, did he initiate or did you? She said, I don't know. I was drunk. He was drunk. It just happened. It just happened is the phrase that eliminates agency from an event that required 2 people to physically move from a kitchen to a bathroom and close a door. Things don't just happen. People make them happen. And it just happened is the lie we tell when claiming the decision is harder than claiming the accident. I called Jordan. I said, tell me about the bathroom at Thomas's party. He said, I walked her upstairs because she was drunk. I was being a good friend to your friend. Nothing happened. She went to the bedroom. I went back downstairs. I said, she says you went to the bathroom. He said, I went to the bathroom to use the bathroom. We were not in the same room. 2 stories. I spent 3 days doing something I am not proud of, but which I would do again. Alana's Instagram shows a story posted from Thomas's house at 12:14 a.m. She is in the room. Jordan is visible in the background, holding a drink, close to her, not touching. But the proximity is closer than 2 people who are just talking at a party where 30 other people are available. At 12:47 a.m., Alana posted a second story, the upstairs hallway. No caption, no people visible, but the background shows a bathroom door, closed. The light under the door is on. She posted a photo of a closed bathroom door at 12:47 a.m. from an upstairs hallway she had no reason to be in, unless she was going somewhere she shouldn't have been going. I looked at Jordan's phone records, not by asking, by remembering. 3 weeks ago, Jordan's phone was on the counter. A text notification appeared. The preview showed a message from T-Mobile that said, your number has been successfully removed from, I didn't read the rest. Now I think about it. Removing a number. From what? Jordan had removed something from something 3 weeks after the party, and 1 week before Alana's 1:47 a.m. call. I sat with my evidence. None of it is proof. All of it is pattern. And patterns are what you read when proof isn't available because patterns are what people leave behind when they're too drunk to cover the trail and too sober afterward to know what the trail looks like to someone reading it cold. I called them both into my apartment on Sunday. I sat them on the same couch. I said, one of you is lying. I have spent 3 days looking at the evidence. I don't have proof. I have pattern. I looked at Alana. I said, you called me at 1:47 a.m. to confess something that has been eating you for 4 weeks. You could have lied. You chose to tell me knowing it would destroy our friendship. People who lie about hookups don't volunteer confessions at 1:47 a.m. crying drunk. People who lie protect themselves. You detonated yourself. I looked at Jordan. I said, you denied it immediately. No pause, no processing. The sentence was ready before I finished mine. People who are innocent are confused first. They say what? They say, who told you that? They process. You didn't process. You defended. The defense was preloaded because you've been carrying the same 4 weeks she has, and you spent those weeks preparing the denial instead of preparing the truth. I said, you also removed a number from your phone 3 weeks ago. I saw the notification. A man who didn't do anything wouldn't need to erase the contact of the woman he didn't do it with. The room was silent. I stood up. I said, I'm keeping Alana. Jordan said, you're keeping her? She's the one who did this. I said, she's the one who told me. You're the one who hid it. I can rebuild trust with a person who hands me the ugly truth at 1:47 a.m. I cannot rebuild trust with a person who hands me a clean lie at 1:52 a.m. and sleeps fine afterward. He left. Alana stayed. She said, I don't deserve this. I said, you don't. But you told the truth when lying was free. The closed bathroom door on Instagram isn't proof. The phone notification isn't proof. The only proof was your voice at 1:47 a.m. choosing to lose me rather than keep me with a lie. She said, are we okay? I said, no, but we're honest. And honest can become okay. Comfortable lies can't become anything except more lies. Monday came and I went to work. At lunch, I turned my phone over. One text from Jordan, sent at 9:14 a.m. I hope you know you just threw away 2 years because a drunk girl cried at you. When you realize what you lost, I'll decide if I answer. I didn't respond. The text was not a message. It was a placement. He put it in my my chest like a person setting a heavy box on a table and walking away, knowing the table will feel it all day. That evening, Alana met me at a coffee shop. She was sober, pale. The color in her face had been replaced by the gray tone of a person who hasn't slept well in days. She said, "I keep waiting for you to change your mind." I said, "I don't hate you, but I need you to stop acting like you're on borrowed time. If we're doing this, we're doing it real." She nodded, but I noticed something. Alana kept checking her phone, not in the obvious way, in the careful way, the way a person checks a phone when they don't want you to see the screen. She did it 3 times in 40 minutes. I didn't say anything, but I noticed. Wednesday, I got a call from Liana, a mutual friend. She said, "Hey, so Jordan called me. He told me what happened. He said Alana made the whole thing up because she's been obsessed with him for months and you believed her over him. He said she's been trying to get between you two since the beginning." I stood in the next room and I felt the floor tilt. Not because I believed it, because I heard it. And hearing someone else repeat a version of events that is not your version, in a voice that sounds reasonable and concerned and just asking questions, is a specific kind of pain. I said, "That's not what happened." Liana said, "I'm not taking sides," but he sounded really hurt. And honestly, Alana does get dramatic when she drinks. "I just wanted you to hear what's going around." "What's going around?" She said it like weather. I called Thomas. I said, "Did Jordan call you?" Thomas said, "Yeah, Monday night. He asked me to tell you I never saw them together upstairs," which is true. I didn't see them upstairs. But I also told him I didn't see most of what happened after midnight because I was in the basement. He only heard the part he wanted. Then Thomas said, "He's building a case. You should know that. He's collecting statements. He wants people on record saying they didn't see anything, and he's going to use those statements like they prove nothing happened. But not seeing something isn't the same as it not happening. I was in a basement. I couldn't see the moon either, but I know it was up there." Jordan was not just denying what happened. He was building something. The lie he told me at 1:52 a.m. on Saturday was not a moment. It was the first brick in a wall he had been planning to build since the bathroom door closed at Thomas's party. Thursday at 4:30 p.m., Alana texted, "Hey, I'm not feeling great. Can we rain check?" Something felt wrong. Wrong like a sound you can't identify in a house you know well. Alana's texts had gotten shorter. By Wednesday, she was responding in 3 words or less. The warmth from the coffee shop was leaking out of our conversations like heat from a window someone left cracked open. Friday night, I couldn't sleep. I scrolled to Alana's profile. She hadn't posted in 3 days. 3 days of silence from Alana on Instagram is like 3 days of silence from a bird. It doesn't mean the bird is fine and just resting. It means something is wrong with the bird. I started scrolling through our old messages. 3 weeks ago, right after the party, there was a stretch where Alana barely texted me. Short answers. Then on the 3rd day, she came back full force. Double texts, heart emojis. I had thought nothing of it at the time, but now I was looking at it through the lens of everything I knew, and what I saw was a cycle. Alana goes quiet when the shame gets loud. She pulls away. Then the guilt of pulling away becomes its own separate shame, so she overcompensates. Something had added weight. Something between the coffee shop on Monday and the canceled dinner on Thursday had put something new on Alana's back. Saturday morning, I drove to Alana's apartment. I didn't text first. Texting gives a person time to build a response. Alana opened the door. She looked like she hadn't slept. I said, "What happened?" She said, "Nothing." She said it the way people say nothing when the nothing is a something they haven't figured out how to say yet. I stepped inside. She stood with her back against the door, and then she broke. The sober daylight, standing in her own apartment break. She said, "Jordan texted me." My whole body tightened. She said, "Tuesday night. He said if I really cared about you, I'd tell you I exaggerated. He said I was drunk and confused. He said if I told you I was wrong, he could fix things with you, and everyone could move on." That was the night after the coffee shop. That was what she was hiding while I talked about the weather. I said, "Did you consider it?" The silence lasted 3 seconds. She said, "For about an hour." I sat here and I wrote the text. I wrote, "I think I was too drunk to remember clearly, and I may have gotten it wrong." I stared at it for 40 minutes, just staring at it, the cursor blinking at the end of the sentence. I didn't send it, but I almost did, because he made it sound like the kind thing to do. Like recanting was a gift I could give you. Like taking the truth back would fix everything the first lie broke. She wiped her face. She said, "He made lying sound like love." I felt fury. Not the hot kind, the cold kind, the kind that calculates. Jordan had found the crack in her, which is her guilt, and he had pressed on it with the precision of a person who knows exactly where people break. He hadn't just asked her to lie. He had repackaged the lie as kindness. But I also felt admiration. Alana didn't send it. She wrote the words. She stared at them. She sat in her apartment for 40 minutes with her thumb over the send button and the easy way out glowing on her screen, and she didn't press it. I said, "He contacted you to get you to lie for him." Alana said, "Yes, but I almost did. And I need you to know that because I promised you honesty, and almost doesn't count, but almost is close." The real threat was never the party. The real threat was what Jordan was willing to do after. He had tried to turn my best friend into his alibi. The friendship I chose to keep on Sunday was almost undone by Thursday. Not by the betrayal, by the cleanup. I drove home and I made a decision. I was done waiting. I called Devin, Jordan's friend, the one who was DJing. I said, "Were you DJing the whole night at Thomas's party?" Devin paused. The pause was real. He said, "I was DJing until about 11:30. Then I played a playlist from my phone and went to hang out in the basement with Thomas." I closed my eyes. I said, "So Jordan's reason for staying, supporting you while you DJ'd, ended at 11:30. Devin said, "Yeah. He said he was going to hang out a bit longer." Hang out a bit longer is the phrase you use when you don't have a reason to stay, but you have a reason you're not saying. I said, "Did you see him after that?" Devin said, "I saw him once, around 12:45. He came downstairs. He seemed off, like quiet. He grabbed a water bottle and went back up." At 12:45 a.m., Jordan was upstairs. At 12:47 a.m., Alana posted an Instagram story of a closed bathroom door with the light on from an upstairs hallway. The timeline wasn't a timeline anymore. It was a map. I said, "Has Jordan talked to you since we broke up?" Devin hesitated. The hesitation was different from the first pause. The first was a door. The second was how far he opened it. He said, "He called me Monday. He asked me to say I was with him the whole night." I felt cold, actual cold. I said, "He asked you to lie." Devin said, "He said it wasn't really lying. He said it was just simplifying." Simplifying. The way you simplify a story by removing the parts that make you look guilty. I said, "Why didn't you?" Devin said, "Because I wasn't with him, and because I don't know what happened happened upstairs, but I know asking someone to say they were somewhere they weren't is what people do when they need a story to hold. Then Devin said, there's something else. About a week after the party, Jordan asked me to delete a photo from my phone. It was a group shot. He said he looked bad in it. I deleted it. But last night I just had a feeling. I checked my recently deleted folder. The photo was still there. He paused. He said, Jordan and Alana are in it. They're on the stairs, going up together. And the timestamp is 12:31 a.m. I sat in my car and I did not move. At 12:14 a.m. Alana posted a story from the room with Jordan in the background. By 12:31 a.m. they were on the stairs. By 12:47 a.m. Alana posted a story of a closed bathroom door. The map I had been building now had a photograph in the middle of it. Not a pattern, not proximity. A photo, with a timestamp, of the two of them on the stairs, going up. And Jordan had asked Devin to delete it, the same way he had deleted Alana's number, the same way he had tried to delete Alana's confession. Jordan's entire strategy since the bathroom door closed wasn't denial, it was deletion. I said, can you send me that photo? 30 seconds later my phone buzzed. I saved the photo. I didn't call Jordan. I didn't text him. I wanted him to come to me, because I knew he would. The campaign he was running meant one thing. Jordan needed the narrative to hold, and the only person who could collapse that narrative completely was me. As long as I was quiet, he would wonder what I knew. Sunday afternoon my phone buzzed. Jordan, can I come over? I think we should talk. In person. Without Alana. Just us. I typed, come at 5. I called Alana. I said, Jordan wants to come over. I'm letting him. I need you to stay home. Don't answer if he texts you. She said, okay, simply, no drama. At 5 p.m. Jordan knocked. He was dressed well. Clean shirt. He looked like a man arriving at a job interview he was confident he was going to get. He sat on the same couch where I had sat them both down a week ago. He leaned back. He said, I've had a lot of time to think, and I think we both overreacted. Alana was drunk. She told you something that wasn't accurate. You made a decision based on a drunk phone call without giving me a real chance to explain. He said, I stayed at the party because of Devin. I walked Alana upstairs because she was wasted. I used the bathroom. I went back downstairs. That's it. I think deep down you know that. I let him talk. He said, I think you're smart. I think you looked at the evidence and I think you know it's all circumstantial. Instagram stories aren't proof. A phone notification isn't proof. Alana's drunk crying isn't proof. You chose emotion over logic. Then I said, let me ask you something. You said you stayed for Devin. Devin stopped DJing at 11:30. Why did you stay until 1 a.m.? Jordan blinked. The first crack. He said, we were hanging out in the basement. I said, Devin says he wasn't with you after 11:30. He says you were upstairs. Jordan's jaw tightened. He said, Devin doesn't remember. He was drinking too. I said, Devin remembers well enough that when you called him Monday and asked him to say he was with you all night, he said no. The room changed. Jordan's posture changed. The lean-back confidence drained out of his body. He said, I didn't ask him to lie. I asked him to back me up. I said, back you up with what? The truth or a version? He didn't answer. I said, you also asked him to delete a photo from his phone. A group shot. You said you looked bad in it, but the photo shows you and Alana on the stairs at 12:31 a.m. going up together. I pulled up the photo on my phone. I held it toward him at a distance. The way you show someone something you are not letting go of. Jordan stared at the screen. His mouth opened, then closed. He said, that doesn't mean anything. We were going to different rooms. I said, Jordan, you asked your friend to delete this. You asked another friend to say she made it up. You deleted her number from your phone. You prepared your denial before I even called. You came here today thinking you could charm me into doubting what I already know. I said, you didn't come to tell the truth. You came to make one more attempt at the lie. And the fact that you're still doing it, sitting on my couch, looking at a time-stamped photo of you walking upstairs with her, tells me everything the photo doesn't. Jordan's face changed. The charm left. What was underneath was something I had never seen in 2 years. He said, fine, you want the truth? Yeah, it happened. It was nothing. It meant nothing. It was 10 minutes in a bathroom at a stupid party, and I didn't tell you because it didn't matter. I said, it wasn't meaningless to Alana. She carried it for 4 weeks and it broke her. He said, Alana wanted it to happen. She'd been flirting with me for months. You just didn't see it because you never see it. I stood up. I said, you just admitted it. After a week of calling our friends, after texting Alana to recant, after asking Devin to lie, after coming here with another rehearsed denial, you only told the truth when the photo made the lie impossible. That's not honesty. That's a wall running out of exits. I walked to the door. I opened it. I said, Alana told me the truth when lying was free. You told me the truth when lying became impossible. That's the difference. That's always been the difference. Please leave. Jordan stopped in the frame. He turned and said, you'll regret this. She'll do it again. People like Alana always do. I said, maybe, but at least she'll tell me. He walked out. I called Alana. She answered on the first ring. I said, he admitted it. When I showed him the photo, he couldn't keep it up anymore. Alana said, are you okay? I said, I'm not okay, but I'm clear. And right now, clear is better than okay. Alana said, I'm still sorry. Every day. I said, I know. And every day you say it, I believe you a little more. That's how this works. Not fast, not clean, but real. I hung up. I sat on my couch. The same couch where Jordan sat twice. Once to lie and once to finally stop. I thought about 1:47 a.m. The call that broke everything open. I thought about how the truth arrived drunk and sobbing and terrified. And the lie arrived calm and clean and rehearsed. I thought about how I almost missed it. I picked up my phone. I deleted Jordan's number. Not to hide anything. Just because I didn't need it anymore.